on the clock when you start the. I don't know the rest of the
I'm
song.
glad you didn't go tick-tock on the clock is painful. All sane and logical. Is that what it goes? Is that how the song?
Yeah, something, and I exhale. Bang, bang, da, da, da. Damn.
What is that song? Oh my God, what is it? Flagpole Sitta?
No, that is Harvey Dangerous Flagpole Sitta. That's the one that has raise up the flagpole and see who's alive, but no one ever does. I'm not sick, but I'm not well, and I'm so hot.
So what is all sane?
Because I'm in hell.
But what is all
hell? I'm in hell.
But what is all sane and logical?
Flagpole Sitta.
It doesn't matter. Welcome to Bonehead.
Hold on.
All sane and logical.
And my pride and the choking inside. Some of doubt, turn me inside out. Thing.
Eve 6.
Eve 6.
Eve 6. Boom. Now we can start the show about 90s cartoons.
Welcome to Bonehead. So I was telling Christy about this, and she said, holding a crying child, screaming at me, "Really? 3 episodes for 90s cartoons?"
And this may be 4.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe 17. We don't know.
I know we finished the number 2 at about 1 a.m., but, and I said, 80 people, who gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
I must have had some sleep. We're doing 3 episodes, maybe 4 on 90s cartoons.
Yeah.
We've done way more on way less.
Yes.
We've done way more on Stephen King.
Which is one guy. Which is way less than the entire 90s.
That is true. By the way, if you're watching this, I have a country boy hat on. No, they do not sponsor us. I just felt like my hair wasn't really...
Because that's all they care about the YouTube channel is Joe's hair.
Yeah, I watch only for Joe's hair. I used to only do the audio, but then I was like, wonder what Joe's hair
Have you downloaded the video and did an edit over the past 86 episodes to watch it as it slowly falls out?
That's not true, but the gray is coming in, specifically in the beard. Do you guys ever use that beard stuff where it's supposed to make it darker?
So hold on. Mm-hmm. You put on a gray hat to enhance the grayness in your beard?
No, that was the only one I had down here. I didn't have a black hat. Well, actually,
I was going to say there's a whole ton of hats
but
back
there's
here.
the Quaker Steak 400, some sort of Yankees hat, a Harley hat, a Cookie... I should have wore the Cookie Monster hat, actually.
Now, I'll be honest, Joe. What you want to do, and I learned this from a makeup artist for stage, if you're trying to fill in, if you're trying to make your beard, you cover gray. You can use mascara, and it thickens it a little bit. Now,
I can't imagine how that comes off during work.
No, you don't want... That's what I'm saying. It's only good for stage, when you're on stage.
Yeah.
But just FYI, if you ever need to know that.
I'm just going gray quick. I just want to talk about it now.
I think
you all want to talk about 90s cartoons.
I think you need to be honest. I was talking about this to somebody the other day, honestly, because they were like, I feel old. I'm like, I don't feel old. I really don't.
I'm tired.
I don't.
Well, good for you. Hope your fucking leg falls off.
And there's the fuck. Oh, damn it, I did it.
Oh, my God, now it's already.
All right, 90s cartoons.
All right, so...
This is part 3.
Other parts.
And like I said, this may be 4 parts. Hopefully
we'll see how far we go.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't burned you out. So we're going to start with the
cost you nothing.
The third category. And by the way, I will say a lot of these cartoons we covered in the previous episode could fall into this category. But we thought it was important to separate these for a specific reason. The third category is adult-friendly cartoons.
What?
The cartoons in this category...
Do these cartoons have sex and nudity?
No.
They're not adult cartoons.
That's not my definition of adult-friendly. According to work, that definition's inaccurate.
Adult-friendly cartoons, we use the idea that it contains humor that is adult aimed, but it goes over the head.
Yeah, it's still entertaining to kids, but also didn't hesitate, to cover some pretty serious issues.
Is that your phone?
No,
that would probably be my phone over there.
Your phone's loud.
Yeah, probably need to turn that on vibrate at some point.
So we can just hear.
Not all, from a.
You're getting me Twitter pated.
I forget vibrators.
All I can say is hopefully none of our listeners are sitting on their speakers.
Or are they?
Somebody's reenacting private parts.
But from a humor standpoint, there was humor that was in these cartoons that was really adult oriented. However, also, these cartoons managed to face difficult challenges of making animation that not only
How does
appealed
your
to children...
Gorham phone have a damn doorbell on it?
I don't know. That's new. But anyway...
It's your phone!
Is it evolving? Is this Mangler part... Is it 4 or 5? What are we
I think it would be part 4.
Mangler part 4.
Part 4.
Mangler! Shush!
Don't piss off that laundry press.
But anyway, these cartoons... Oh, my Lord, we're never going to get... You wonder why it's 4 parts.
Because the Mangler won't leave us be.
Because the Mangler keeps coming back for more.
That and Slackjaw McGraw.
But these cartoons managed to face the difficult challenge of making animation that not only appealed to children, but also could put adults in. Not only did they achieve this goal with astounding success, but they also made some memorable moments in TV history. I'm going to take the lead on this one, and I'm going to bring up what a lot of our viewers on Facebook wanted to talk about, Rugrats.
Why is that one? Because I didn't watch Rugrats.
We'll discuss that.
Okay.
Rugrats ran from 1990 to 2006. 16
and did
years.
2 movies, right?
And did 2 movies. 3 movies if you count the Wild Thornberrys crossover.
Deuce is...
Yeah.
Bigelow.
Deuce is Bigelow?
No,
that should be the 4th one. Or the 3rd one?
I don't know. But anyway, on TV, it ran for 178 episodes.
Jeezy crazy.
The cartoon was about 4 babies.
Real quick, does that include Rugrats All Grown Up, or is that
No,
just
it doesn't.
Rugrats?
It's just Rugrats.
Okay.
It does not.
I honestly didn't know.
So it doesn't include the spin-offs?
No.
Okay.
The cartoon was about 4 babies who took on adventures over things in everyday life that they could yet understand. They were often accompanied by the main character, Tommy Pickles' bratty older cousin, Angelica. The show was created by Paul Germain, Gabor Chupo, who we've heard in previous episodes, and Arlene Klasky, who we've also heard in previous episodes. Some directors and writers of note: Jim Duffy, Rick Bugentell, Jeff Swampy Marsh.
Bugentell.
Now, Jeff Swampy Marsh went on to be one of the creators of Phineas and Ferb, correct?
Correct.
And also Milo Murphy's Law with Weird Al Yankovic. All comes together.
Yes.
Follow the path.
Also Robert Mittenthal, William J. Thutt, and Mitchell Kriegman. The voice actors, because we always have to mention the voice actors. Elizabeth Daly, who you would also know from a lot of the Rob Zombie pictures.
E.G. Daly, right?
E.G. Daly, yes. Christine Cavanaugh, who we've mentioned in previous episodes. Tara Strong, the amazing Tara Strong. And
is it Tara or Tara?
It's Tara. I'm sorry, Tara Strong.
No, I think
yeah.
I met her once, but at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
in passing.
By the way,
I've never done
real quick, if you do have the chance to meet Tara Strong, and I haven't got to meet,
and you have a child,
even if you don't, she'll record a voicemail as Harley Quinn or any of her characters for you. I watched her do that for somebody. But if you do, especially if you do have a child, you're right. I took my daughter to meet her because my daughter likes, at the time, liked My Little Pony, but also loved Unikitty and all of that stuff.
Well, who doesn't?
And she sat there and went through all of her voices for my daughter. Probably took about 6, 7, well, not all of them, because she's done Rocky and Bullwinkle. She's now the new Rocky. But did a ton of voices for my daughter. Took 5 minutes with a line waiting for her. So she is phenomenal to her fans. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. No, I think Bonehead does a pretty good job of that. We stop and say, if you're at a con, if we happen to know these people, skip Michael Biehn. Keep going.
Skip Michael Biehn. But there was a lot more actors involved in this show. But as I've mentioned in previous episodes, go to IMDb and look these people up. Look at all the amazing talent that was on the show. Now we're going to talk about why I put this in the adults friendly episode. So the episode, the series has many amazing episodes. Probably the most amazing was the episode called Mother's Day. It shows up in a lot of popular list of some of the best episodes in television. Mother's Day is essentially the four babies, or 3 of the babies, are trying to figure out what to get their mothers for Mother's Day. One of the characters named Chucky, he doesn't have a mom. He hasn't had a mom since the beginning of the series, and the reason why he doesn't have a mom is never alluded to.
How old are they?
I think the age ranges go that Tommy and the 2 twins, Phil and Lil, are 2, and Chucky's 3.
Okay.
And the cousin Angelica is 5 or 6.
So this would be recent for Tommy.
Yes.
It's not.
No, Chucky.
Chucky.
Chucky never knew his mom.
Right.
So it's revealed in this episode that Chucky's mother died of a terminal illness, and it's actually the father's talking with all the other parents about he doesn't know what to do with, like how to handle this with Chucky because he's getting older. He's starting to realize he doesn't have a mom.
And Mother's Day, and there's Mother's Day.
There's Mother's Day, and then Chucky's pondering, where is his mother? Why doesn't he have a mother? The episode ends with Chucky sitting on his father's lap, looking through a bunch of memorable things from his mother in a box, and there's actually a poem, and they read it and they hug. It's a really great episode. Some other episodes that the show also dealt with pregnancy in a real way. Tommy's mother gets pregnant with, by the way, the family's name is Pickles.
Uh-huh.
They named the son Dill.
Ha!
The new son Dill.
I got a cat named Pickles.
Actually, they call him Dylan, but they nickname him Dill.
My son calls her Pick.
But it deals with it actually deals
Clears
with
the bell.
It deals with all the stages of the pregnancy. They also deal the Tommy Pickles family is Jewish, and there's a lot of episodes that deal with the Jewish faith.
So in the 90s, one of the big kudos, if you will, to Rugrats was that they actually, because what do you have every year? You have a ton of Christmas episodes.
Yeah. They
were one of the first to do a whole episode about Hanukkah.
Yeah. They also did a whole episode on the Passover.
Okay.
I mean, they really got into the Jewish faith. I didn't look into why. I'm assuming some of the creators are Jewish, but some of my personal favorites are the Passover episode, the art museum, where the kids get into an art museum and they're actually trying to ponder what all this stuff is about art. Reptar on Ice. Reptar on Ice shows up on a lot of lists as some of the favorite episodes.
Which recently, by the way, I think the company that makes Funko that makes they made a Reptar cereal. So
yeah.
I just saw it and I was like, Reptar!
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Reptar is the kids.
I knew about the Hanukkah one.
It's Godzilla.
Yeah, it's Godzilla. It's the kid's favorite toy.
Oh.
And the Rugrats movie actually deals with them being stuck in a Reptar vehicle.
Thunder Lizard.
The Amazing Thunder Lizards, which is part of Eek the Cat. What the big people
see previous episode.
What the big people do, and this one the kids deal with the imagination of what they will be like as adults, and it's kind of the baby's interpretation of what the actual big people do in life. It's pretty funny. But this is, and I pulled this from a website, and I believe it's accurate. I don't believe there actually ever was, out of the 178 episodes, I don't believe there ever was a bad episode of Rugrats.
You know, and I was never a huge fan, but I do remember a couple episodes, and they do stick with me. The one where the father suffers a head injury,
yeah,
and is reduced to a childlike state, so they can communicate with him, and they have to kind of watch over him. I remember that one. And I remember, and I don't remember a lot of plot, but I remember the grandfather, a lot of the things that he would do. Because was he a toy maker or something?
The father, Stu Pickles, was a toy maker.
And then I just remember the grandfather, and some of that, and then I remember, of course, the guide, the name of the guide. The author who wrote all the books about children, how to raise them.
Yeah. Spock?
No,
but geez. I'm sticking with Spock.
But by the way, that person, I don't remember. I'm blanking on the person's name. I actually had
Dr. Lipschitz, right?
Dr. Lipschitz, and it was voiced by Tony Jaa.
I'm sticking with Dr.
No, it's Tony Jaa. Anyway, the reason why Rugrats is important to me, when I was a kid, I mentioned this previously. We didn't have cable. We only had the 3 stations, and when I would go to my cousin's house. I would wake up in the morning and turn on Nickelodeon, and I would watch Rugrats and the cartoon that James is getting ready to mention. So I'm going to lead it over to James.
I think I've got to start with...
why did you pick that one for an adult? Just one more sentence. Why?
Because it dealt with a lot of adult-heavy topics.
For example, just the humor.
It's not just the humor. For example, the loss, death, pregnancy... Even some of the humor was adult-oriented because it was kids looking at their parents and interpreting things they do in a weird way.
And I think that's it. You know, you talked about the interpretation of what do kids think parents do. There's an actual conversation that happened yesterday. Silas, my son, looked at Dana, and now that I'm home for the summer and I'm off, I'm not, I teach one class. He actually said, he was like, Mommy, you just work too much. And it was because his when I was working all the time and she was working all the time, that's what adults did.
Uh-huh.
Now that he's been exposed to, I have a job that takes me away for 9 months, but then I have 3 months where, my kids are the center of everything. And so now he's like, Mommy, why aren't you doing what Daddy does?
Right.
And,
why would he?
So, I think
anything different.
And then especially, too, now as an adult, having a 3 and a 5-year-old myself.
She's 5?
She's 5.
When did she turn 5?
I don't know, man. I'm having a hard...
He actually doesn't know. He's been...
Oh, seriously?
No, I actually don't know. Was it just a couple of months ago?
She turned April last month.
She turned April last month.
She turned 5 in April. I'm sorry.
No, I was like, is it just that? Oh yeah, because it was like, well, it's 5-year-olds. I didn't want him to get ran over at the birthday party.
But no, it was just. I'm still dealing with the fact that she starts kindergarten in the fall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
then graduation.
I know everybody wants to hear this now. Oh look, the old man, the one bitched about him going gray. The other one is not at home with his kids, and then the third one's now complaining. They're just growing too soon.
I know.
Grow it up.
But no, and I think that's why Rugrats falls into the adult friendly category.
Everyone loves listening to middle-aged men complain,
and it helps because we're also white middle-aged men.
And my knees hurt.
I tell you,
okay.
I think
there's a storm blowing in.
I think it's starting to rain.
Little twitch in my bad knee.
Well,
Goddamn hipsters!
Let's talk about my ankle.
By the way, I forgot to start the time this time.
I know we probably got to worry about that later. But go ahead.
Yeah, let's worry about that later.
Yeah, let's talk about your cartoon.
Mine also came out about the same time as Rugrats, also a Nicktoons. I have to go with it though because it brought me such joy. And it made me so happy. You could say it was there to be happy, joy. Ren and Stimpy.
I have a Harlan Ellison quote about this.
About Ren and Stimpy?
I do.
Really?
You heard it too.
Really?
Mm-hmm, we both did. But go ahead. I'll drop it later.
Yeah, drop
So
that.
Ren and Stimpy, there's an entire drama behind the scenes about Ren and Stimpy. John Krasinski, I'm sure I mispronounced that.
Yeah, probably.
But John Kay created Ren and Stimpy. Spumco was his company. And if you know anything about the Nicktoons, and probably another, I don't know if you're going to bring up the other one, but there was nobody watching the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon wasn't overly sensitive about things in the beginning. And they
always the best.
They didn't do a lot of merchandising in the beginning because they didn't want to overly saturate the market. They were like, well, this may be a failed experiment. So they didn't do anything. And then Ren and Stimpy came out and it was huge. At one point, it was the #1 rated cable television show in its early days because it was off the wall weird. And I watched it as a kid, and it's right there. And
if you're listening, he's just pointing at the table.
I've got a copy on the table. But, if you...
It's a lovely table.
Well, it's all right.
It's worth what I paid.
It's made of the finest of plywood.
Oh, no. That shit's particle board. No plywood ever saw that.
But, John Krasinski had created these characters, and he voiced Ren originally. And Billy West voiced Stimpy.
Never heard of it.
And they went, so Ren and Stimpy, and basically Ren is an asthma hound chihuahua. Don't try to adopt one, they're not real. But it basically made fun of the idea that chihuahuas do tend to have asthma if they're pure breeds. And Stimpy was a cat. And they somehow ended up living together, going on these bizarre adventures, all this stuff. And you watch the bizarre adventures as a kid, and it's funny because, the cat got hit by a hammer or whatever. As an adult... And even as a teenager, I remember going, oh my God, that's so flippin' weird. Because they were door-to-door salesmen selling rubber walrus protectors. And they knocked on the door of a house. It's one of my favorite scenes. I laugh still when I see it. And it's a horse, which is on the back of the box of the season 1. But it's a horse. And he says, no, they're selling something else. And he says, do you happen to have any rubber walrus protectors? No, I don't think we have that. And he turns around and he pulls out a walrus and he just holds it up and goes, because I need protection. And the walrus just goes, call the police. And they walk away. They walk away because they can't get a cell. And I laughed hard then. I laugh hard now. It's one of my favorite lines. Matter of fact, today, twice, I have looked at my kids and muttered under my breath to where one time Dana heard me, where my kids were doing something weird, and I just said, "Call the police." And nobody gets it anymore, but it's from Ren and Stimpy. I'm quoting Ren and Stimpy when I do it. The episodes were weird. There's an entire one where they're in space, and there's a self-destruct button, and Ren has to take a bath, but he's got space madness, so he picks up the bar of soap and he goes, and he goes, I'm not crazy. I'm going to eat my ice cream bar. And it's a bar of soap, and then it cuts back to Stimpy, and the narrator starts going off going, can he resist pushing the button? The jolly candy-like button. And at the end of the episode, he hits the button and blows him to hell. That's the end of the episode. The show was weird. It was quote-unquote for kids. It aired on Nick. It was a Nicktoon. But it was so weird. It was for...
You keep saying it was weird.
It was so for weird. Adults. And kids just happened to watch it. I mean, I honestly think that was it. It's to the point that after 2 seasons, depending on who you wanted to listen to, Nickelodeon at one point claimed, well, it just took them too long to animate it because he would not let things go unless they were animated perfectly. He claims it's because they wanted to start censoring him. Spumco, they got rid of it, and Nicktoons started animating themselves. A lot of people argue that animation quality went down. Obviously, at that point, John Krasfalski left. And Billy West started doing both voices.
But there was also other issues with John K.
John K. is a very interesting human being. But yeah, go ahead.
No, he always had a underage girl with him at all times, and they were more than just friends. And it was kind of just they just kind of thought it as the norm, and it became a big issue.
And one of the episodes that really got where Nickelodeon did step in and say, we have got to do some editing, was when he introduced the character of George Liquor, who was an abusive father. And the entire episode is about them having to deal with an abusive father figure. And they spun that off into a quote-unquote comic that Krasfalski did after he left, John K. did after he left. But yeah, I mean, it was almost like, well, they let me get away with this so far. How much farther can I go? So yeah, some people say
what we do.
Some people say he torpedoed his own ship.
Yeah.
He tried to bring Ren and Stimpy back later.
Right.
Was that Spike?
Yes, Spike TV.
Because there was one episode that he did animate. It was the one that never aired, and they aired it, and then they brought it back as kind of this raucous party thing. But all the episodes started to deal with bodily fluids and the fact that Ren and Stimpy were lovers. And again, it just was like he was like, I want to push. I just want to keep pushing.
It just wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same. But if the first 2 seasons are so weird and over the top, the later ones aren't bad. It just lost that. It needed somebody that was crazy. That
love and feeling.
It needed somebody that was crazy at the helm to keep
that love and feeling.
But a lot of
love and feeling, now it's gone. God,
I wish I was gone. Anyway, we mentioned this.
Sorry.
We mentioned this last time. I mean,
you always interrupt my righteous brothers.
Because that's when you do it, it's not righteous. Snookums and Meat and 2 Stupid Dogs, which was Hanna-Barbera's answer to it, both got greenlit because of this. But there's some other people that hail it as being vital to animation. Today, Mike Judge said that MTV greenlit Beavis and Butthead because Nickelodeon, which was a sister station for them, was killing it with Ren and Stimpy. Writer Larry Brody, who was one of the writers for it, credits it as basically starting a bunch of adult-oriented satirical shows. And that was it. It was satire. It was over-the-top satire. So it wasn't The Simpsons, which was just an animated sitcom. It was satire. It was all meant to be, this is asinine. It's a cat and dog as door-to-door salesman or space ranger.
Or sorry about that.
Or Royal Canadian kilted yaksman. Our country reeks of trees. Our yaks are really large, and they smell like rotting beef carcasses. I'll stop there.
So we do have to admit, before we move on to the next one, you do have. There's one key element of Ren and Stimpy that I can't believe you didn't mention.
What?
Powdered Toast Man.
Well, there's Powdered Toast Man who fought Spider-Man at one point.
Really?
In the Ren and Stimpy comics, yes, issue 6. There's also Log though. What goes downstairs, alone or in pairs, or all over your neighbor's dog. I mean, making fun of Slinky? Who thought, oh, you know what we need to... Who needs taking down a peg? That Slinky company. We'll point out that you can roll a wooden log down the steps and it does the same thing. And that's what it was.
You know, Powdered Toast Man, you know what he did, Joe? You know what he did?
Made powdered toast?
Yeah, you know how he made powdered toast, Joe?
With powder.
So the kids would have their toast on the table, and he would come to save the day. He would poop on them.
Yeah. He pooped powdered toast.
He pooped the powder onto their toast.
Why James doesn't remember this, we were at a con and we met Harlan, and Harlan was talking about how he's going to be doing the voice for Scooby, and he was like, we're bringing back Scooby, and he goes, okay, I never cared for Scooby. I'm more of a Ren and Stimpy guy.
Oh, yeah. That's you're right. I remember that now. By the way, the other thing...
I never forgot. Harlan lives on in my heart.
Oh,
in your heart, he does not. He doesn't exist.
Stifle, eat
you
it.
You think Harlan's in heaven? See, there's a whole other level there.
Yeah. Another direct influence though is SpongeBob SquarePants, especially when they do the extreme close-ups where they're all gnarled looking and stuff. Ren and Stimpy did that all the time. As a matter of fact, that was one thing. Most of those extreme close-ups, because they were static shots, were actually the art of John Kay, because he loved those weird bloodshot eyes and stuff like that. So, Ren and Stimpy, I can remember, and my parents hated it, of course. My dad would laugh and say, that's terrible, you shouldn't be watching this. But that was one of the things I got away with.
So we're going to continue on the Nickelodeon love train for the third one. And by the way, on our Facebook, the people who responded on Facebook, I'm surprised nobody brought this one up. At least I didn't see it. Hey Arnold.
No.
I never really...
One of the hardest I ever laughed was a Hey Arnold joke, but I really can't tell it because nobody would laugh about it. You'd have to... It was at...
I don't know
it took place in 1999, and it's gone now.
I don't know
20
if I've
years
ever
later.
seen an episode of Hey Arnold.
You don't want to talk about it?
It's so obscure, and it deals with people that you would know.
Yeah.
But nobody listening or watching is going to know.
Gotcha.
But it was an RA making fun of an RA, and you'd have to know who that was, and it's one of the hardest I've ever laughed. It was one of the best, just gag. Forget it.
Thanks for sharing that.
It's not funny to anybody but me.
And honestly, I didn't know Hey Arnold. I didn't get introduced to Hey Arnold till college, because like I said again, I didn't have cable. So, but when I did, I loved it.
And you're watching Hey Arnold in college. There were parties.
Yeah, I didn't do those.
There was women.
Yeah, I didn't do those.
There you could meet women.
I looked at them from afar. So anyway,
way back.
Hey Arnold. Hey,
I'll stay back here. Way back.
Hey, they were in Moorhead. I wasn't about Iowa. Hey Arnold ran 1996 to 2004. Ran 103 episodes.
Isn't that a long time?
Yeah. Their Nickelodeon seasons were really short. The show was about a fourth grader named Arnold who probably had the coolest bedroom in history. If you had look it up, one of the best bedrooms in history. He lived in a very similar. It's actually never.
It's got Betty Davis eyes. I don't know why.
I was going to say. So far we know that Chad did see Hey Arnold so far we know Chad didn't watch Hey Arnold until he got to college, and he's obsessed with the fourth grader's bedroom. I don't see where this can possibly keep getting worse.
So you were
right on the head.
Were you hanging out with the creator of Ren and Stimpy?
But no, he lived. It actually is never said where he lives, but it is very, very similar to Brooklyn. The show dealt with his everyday life and his interactions with his friends, grandparents, and neighbors who lived in the boarding house that him and his grandparents ran. It was created by Craig Bartlett, Steve Vixton, and Joe I'm going to butcher this name. I didn't get. I tried to look up how to pronounce it, and there was no clear evidence of how to pronounce it. Joe and Sola Behir.
Behir.
Be now. Directed and writers of note: Steve Saki, Tuck Tucker, Larry Lichter, Joseph Prudy, Jonathan Greensberg, and Rachel Lippman.
Not Rachel.
Some of the voice actors. By the way, hi Mick. Hey Arnold was first voiced by Philip Van Dyke. Now, why did I bring Mick's name?
Mick Strawn.
Mick Strawn.
Why?
He played young Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four movie that Mick worked on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Francesca Marie Smith, Jamil Walker. There was actually 3 people who voiced Hey Arnold over the course of its run. Jamil Walker Smith, Dan Castellaneta he was the voice of Grandpa, Spencer Klein, and Lane Torren. Just like Rugrats, this is why I've put this in the adults friendly category. It is a kids cartoon for the most part. However, just like Rugrats, this show covered a lot of adult themed topics. Topics range from Arnold dealing with the loss of his parents, bullying, addiction, the fear of the unknown, and also this was very groundbreaking because this, especially for animation and just television in general, the show actually featured a homosexual character.
Okay.
Though during the show's run, the series never outwardly mentioned this fact, Arnold's teacher, Mr. Simmons, was a gay man. In the episode Arnold's Thanksgiving, Arnold meets Mr. Simmons' family and his friend Peter.
Did they have to name him that?
Yeah.
That's a little on the head.
Oh,
boo.
Boo Earns.
Really? Really? Of all the jokes, that was the clean one.
Yeah, that was the clean one. You did good. Better than I thought.
Pull it back a little bit.
During
I see where you're headed off to.
But during the episode, the mother remarks very pretentiously at this that she didn't know Peter was coming. Oh God! I wrote it and didn't know it till I read it just now.
That says more about the mother not knowing that's going to happen than anything else.
I know.
And then Peter responds by saying, "There's a lot of things you don't know." And then she kind of drops her glass in shock. Then in the Hey Arnold movie that came out just last year, it is they're clearly homosexual because the whole thing about Hey Arnold is they're going on a field trip to another country, and Mr. Simmons is seen giving Peter a very loving embrace. The show, I put the Who. The show even dealt with the horror of the Vietnam War, believe it or not.
Because one does.
Yeah, but no, it actually is really serious. It's called Arnold's Christmas. In this episode, Arnold the boarding house that they live in. They have a secret Santa every year.
Yeah.
And Arnold draws the name of a Vietnamese neighbor that lives in his boarding house. While trying to figure out something very truly special to get him, he finds out about how his neighbor was separated from his daughter 20 years ago, when the family fled South Vietnam. The show then revolves around Arnold and his friend Gerald trying to track down the missing daughter. They actually go to a government official and scrape his driveway, do all these chores around the house, just trying to get the information, and then it turns out that they can't get it. The show actually ends on a really special note in that a Christmas miracle happens. They're all at the Christmas party for the boarding house, and Arnold tells him what he tried to do for him. Mm-hmm. And there's a knock on the door, and there's the daughter. And she then becomes a regular on the show. Some of my favorite episodes, The Journal, Chocolate Boy, which was actually dealt with addiction. And it did it in a way that was very kid-friendly. There was this boy who was addicted to chocolate. And he has withdrawals. His name was
Joe Lewis.
But it deals with a lot. There are very similar drug addiction,
Dude, I just snorted a Hershey bar.
I was going to say, when they caught him snorting the Hershey powder, that was
our first break. Can you get us some chocolate?
No, I done did it all.
You bastard.
You got an 8-ball of chocolate and said that would do all weekend.
Oh my God, I got an 8-ball buddy.
And then he squeezed it full of Hershey syrup.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Stoop
Jesus,
Kid.
you ever had any of Hershey's syrup? It's amazing. Keep going.
No, Stoop Kid, Pigeon Man, Parents' Day, and Dino Checks Out. Parents' Day is a really special one because all the kids are doing something. It's at the school, and all the kids are doing something very special for his parent. They're with their parents, and Arnold doesn't have his parents. He has his grandmother, his grandfather, and his sister. And it's just Arnold envisioning, like, what his parents could have been.
Does it explain what happened to his parents?
Not really. It's never really explained what happened to his parents.
Okay.
They just, I believe...
They took a cruise with all the parents from Disney movies. And
I was thinking the same thing. Disney killed all the parents.
That boat never had a shot.
Why
did they get on the Titanic, too?
They got on Ghost Ship.
And in Arnold's head, it actually involves a plane crash.
Mm.
So it's a really great episode. And also Dino Checks Out, which is about his grandfather's favorite a singer was a guy very similar to Dean Martin who faked his own death. It's kind of along the lines of the Krusty episode where Krusty, for insurance fraud, crashed himself. Similar thing.
I'm kind of torn on some of the other ones that I could do. Why are you
staring longingly at a tab?
Because one of the ingredients for a tab is potassium benzoate, and in parentheses, it says, to protect taste.
Obviously, this show has never seen potassium benzoate.
We should bathe in that shit.
There's a couple other ones that I would think that are kid-friendly. But yeah, I really am struggling to think of ones that are purely kid-friendly. I guess one that I watched when I was younger that my parents watched with me, and now I get more of the humor in it. Do you think The Critic?
I think The Critic is kid-friendly. It's on my list.
The Critic I love, and then there's a couple things I want to talk about The Critic.
The Critic? It's weird how he's saying critic.
Critic.
Say Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. I don't know what his deal is.
Whip.
Wheat.
Well, anyway. But The Critic's a quintessential 90s show. I was thinking about this the other day. I was doing research about it, and they pointed something out, and it actually made me start thinking. The Critic, and there's conversations always about bringing the Critics back. It is a darling for critics, and it has a cult following still and all of this stuff. But one of the things that they said was, it is very much of the 90s.
I haven't seen it in years, dude.
And so it was developed by two of the writers for The Simpsons. And Matt Groening, actually, I have a quote from him where he says that it is the show that he never worked on that he gets linked to the most. Because it did cross over with The Simpsons, and it used his writers created. That being said, they intentionally created Jay Sherman as the antithesis. I screwed that up.
What?
Timer.
I don't know what a timer is.
They created him as the antithesis.
Mr. Sherman.
We can't do nothing in secret in this show.
I can't understand you.
Of Homer Simpson.
Speak up. He's over here mouthing away if you're listening.
If you think about...
Did you just say watermelon? Did you say you want a fracas?
Vacuum? You want a vacuum?
Fracas. Well, if you want a fracas, sir, we'll throw hands.
He'll have a Donnybrook. He will. We'll
get all fracasy up in here.
Anyway.
Y'all want chicken.
Name of the episode.
Y'all want chicken?
Or fracas. Makes me want
I don't know how to spell no fracas.
Fracas.
Oh. You neither one of you can spell shit.
I spelled it right. It's one C, right?
I thought it was two C's.
You continue on with
The Critic was a quintessential night show because that was when late 80s, early 90s was when you had television critics. You had obviously Siskel and Ebert,
George
C. Scott, right?
Don't Panic Room. I don't want to William hurt you. Anyway,
Michael Wallace.
All of those people.
I don't think he was a critic.
And so that was when they peaked, was in the early 90s when The Critic came out.
Leonard Maltin just kept putting one book out after another.
But
that's when Entertainment Tonight was respectable.
Yep.
Jay Sherman was the critic, and he was designed, they intentionally set out to design him, other than being heavy set and bald, as the opposite of Homer. He is elitist. He is he's overly aware. He's self-critical.
And who
he's
does his
all
voice?
the thing. John Lovett.
Never heard of him.
Most of the time it was John Lovitz. A lot of times it was somebody else that sounded like John Lovitz.
Really?
Yep.
But so
well, no. Let's stop right there.
I don't know the actor's name, but yeah, there was several episodes where John Lovitz wasn't available, and they had somebody who sounded like John Lovitz do the episode.
I want to say it's just I would assume it's got to be Maurice LaMarche. He does.
Well, why? So is this? Why didn't he do it? He wasn't available. Is it a money thing?
I'm assuming he wasn't. I don't have the research on it, but it was either he was working on other projects or plain simple he wanted more money.
Well, and I know, and that was the thing. So it premiered on ABC, aired for 6 weeks or something, not very long. Was canceled. Fox immediately picked it up, put it on after Simpsons, did a crossover episode, all that stuff, football in the groin. And then it got another life through online recently-ish, early 2000s, through Atomic Films. And there's been conversations again about bringing it back. UPN almost brought it back immediately for a third season.
Oh, really?
After Fox canceled it. And they wrote there's 9 scripts that are owned by whoever owns the rights to the critic. It transfers with them because the scripts are ready to go.
Uh-huh.
And John Lovitz has publicly said he'd love to do it.
Because he got nothing else to do.
Aww.
That's
John Lovitz, if you want to come on the show and talk about how you went batshit conservative nuts in the last few years, we'd love to speak to you.
But
about your career.
I love John Lovitz. Not about the other part. I love John Lovitz, sir. I will not have you besmirch him.
No.
That being said, Charles Napier played Duke, who owned the station.
Now dead.
And it was a parody of Ted Turner. Garrett Graham, who came up in our last episode.
You know why? Because he's in the Chud too, Bud the Chud, because he plays Bud the Chud.
He played Franklin Sherman.
Would you like me to explain that to you some more?
No.
Because it's called Chud too. That's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. And now they didn't. They had more Chuds. They had the Chud, and then there's like, we need some more Chuds, and they got Chud too. And there's like, what could we call that Chud? We'll now call him Bud. He played Bud the Chud.
Yeah, he played Franklin Sherman in The Critic.
Yep.
What about Bud the Chud?
No, he played Franklin Sherman, who was Jay Sherman's father, and who has some of the best lines because he has dementia.
Yeah.
And
also he's a raging alcoholic.
And he's an alcoholic, and so Jay was adopted.
Yeah.
And there's tons of jokes about him being adopted and his mother and father not knowing what to do because they end up having a daughter of their own later. And some of the lines from that, like I said, I watched it as a kid, and so many lines went through my head, and I've shared this with y'all before, but it's still one of my favorite lines. There's a scene where they're getting ready. It's going to be the Sweet 16 of the daughter, and they're having to get ready, and they hire the dressmaker because they're a very elite New England family that he's adopted by. And the dressmaker goes, okay, I need only my subject in the room, everybody else out. And they all leave the room. And he goes, I have to ask you this question.
If you're watching, you can see this on the iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. What in the Sam Hale are you doing with your hand?
I'm smiling because I know the joke he's going to read.
And everybody leaves the room, and the dressmaker goes, listen, Sweet 16s are much like weddings. It's about purity. So you need to tell me, can you wear pure white, or do we need to go with an off-white or beige? And she goes, I can wear pure white, except for the gloves.
I know that joke too.
And
that's not the only time that joke's been used.
No.
But there's a couple other oones. In the very first episode, he's got a son.
Now I want to make a lipstick joke.
He's got a son, and he's divorced. And in the first episode, a beautiful woman ends up with him in his room, and his son is there. And he says, son, you may have noticed a beautiful woman was in my bed. And his son, whose name is Marty, goes, don't worry, Dad, I won't tell anyone. And he responds back, actually, I wish you would tell everyone, especially your mother and her personal trainer, Alberto.
Funny.
But there's also the other reason I consider it a show that's more for adults, and you have to know something about film. Because when you watch it as a kid, there's a Ghostbusters 3 joke, and it's whatever, Ghostbusters. You watch as an adult, and there's some things that you almost need to be... There's some elitism in this show, including this scene. Jay has to get somewhere. He's running behind. He basically steals a truck to get there, and this is a line of dialogue. I've got to keep driving. I can't stop for anything. He's driving. There's a roadside farmer who's flags him down, and he goes, "You can meet Ingmar Bergman. It's only 25 cents to meet Ingmar Bergman." And he goes, "No, I've got to keep driving. I've got to keep driving." He drives off. The roadside farmer turns around. There's an animated version of Ingmar Bergman standing there, and he goes, "Well, you'd best get back to the strawberry patch with Polanski." Strawberry Fields was a movie directed by Bergman.
Yeah.
And so...
those fields are forever.
And so it was a show, and I said, always conversation about bringing it back. It was brought back as Atomic Films. When they brought it back as Atomic Films, though, they only brought back John Lovitz.
Yeah.
And the rest of the cast never...
Well, Charles Napier's dead.
Well, they could have hooked a battery up to it. They could have done what several other shows did that he was involved with and just
Squidbillies that replaced him. Well, they replaced him before he died, though.
I would imagine he... probably wasn't able to keep his schedule.
I don't know.
We also need to bring up, when we mentioned it in the Pinky and the Brain portion of the last episode, is the Alf Orson Welles Peas commercials.
Oh yeah, that is one. Oh, taste the rich green penis. That is sick. And then he just starts grabbing handfuls of them. Oh, they're even better raw.
I've not seen this.
And it's Maurice LaMarche is doing the voice of which we would now go on. But yeah, The Critic is... It ran 2 seasons full, and then it did a season online, which I don't think they ever released on DVD or anything. But...
Chad, let's talk about yourself.
When the DVD came out, it was actually an immediate hit, and they went through 5 pressings. But which in books would be 5 editions. I've been through
several depressings.
I have that all the time. But, so if you've never seen The Critic, it is, the jokes are now heavily 90s based, but it was also written as a love letter to New York. And one of the things that they say, and New England, New York, New England area, and that's what they say, that The Simpsons was solely aimed at middle America. The Critic was aimed at those elites and things like that. And here's what's really funny about it, is it failed there. Who really loved it? Where did the DVD sales spike everywhere? It's the same place that loves The Simpsons. It's the Midwest. Because to them, it parodies what's wrong with the New York elite.
Right.
And so it makes all those Bergman jokes. It does all that stuff. But really the people who love it are people like me.
When did Dr. Katz come out?
I think that was 90s as well.
Yeah, it was 90s as well. I was wondering why another Roddy borrowed it
I would argue that I thought about doing that, but I thought that would be adults only.
Yeah, that would be our 4th category.
That's
excuse me.
But because he had that condition where he shook all the time.
Yeah.
There's an entire Family Guy joke.
So some
only 81 episodes. 1995 to 2002.
So another cartoon we should probably talk about in the adult-friendly cartoons is Rocco's Modern Life.
Mm-hmm.
Another Nickelodeon. We have to talk about Rocco's Modern Life. It was actually created by one of the creators is Steve Hillenburg, which you would know from SpongeBob SquarePants. This was his cartoon before SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And he also worked with Tom Kenny, who was the voice of Heifer. Carlos Alazraqui was the voice of Rocky.
And Tom Kenny was the voice of... SpongeBob.
Heifer, yes. He went on to be the voice of SpongeBob.
And I've met him. So you can go online to Comic-Con and watch the interview I did with Tom Kenny.
Yes.
Who is a very sweet person. He really was.
Yeah. Anything else you want to mention to Comic-Con while we're sitting here?
Go to Comic-Con and check out Bonehead.
One of the most important, most memorable to me parts of Rocco's Modern Life, and there's some episodes that I love.
Oh, God, yeah.
There's a lot of adult humor in Rocco's Modern Life.
The B-52s.
But that didn't come until the 2nd season.
That's
Did you
true.
know that? The first season, it was actually just
I don't remember.
But, it also had a huge amount of fans, and you can look this up on IMDb. Richard Simmons was a huge fan, and it was one of the few shows, especially animated, that he said, I will do a voice, and you can parody me, and I will play that character, because he loved Rocco's Modern Life.
Yeah, and the reason why it is adult friendly is there was some pretty adult themed jokes in that show. One of my favorites is Rocco has to go get his driver's license. It has expired, so he goes to the DMV, and it's a lunatic asylum trying to get his license. They make him go get an eye test at the DMV, and he goes into the doctor's office, and the doctor pulls out his eyeballs from his sockets. He's holding them in one hand, squeezing them together, and he says, "Okay, now cough." And then the doctor looks at the camera, like saying to the adults, Yeah, you know what I'm doing right now. And then there was the one where Rocco's trying to find a job, and he takes a job at a phone sex hotline. Right?
Mm-hmm. Isn't there the one where Heifer gets caught in the machine, the milking machine kind of thing?
Yes.
Yes, and it's much more of a...
And there's an episode that they made fun of, where it was the only time Nickelodeon directly censored them, which was silly, because basically it was Heifer Goes to Hell, was going to be the name of the episode, and they wouldn't let them do it, call it that. They had to change it to Heifer Goes to Heck, but they didn't watch what they write, so they wrote all these terrible things into the script.
Right.
But all Nickelodeon said was, you can't say hell. So they made the episode 10 times worse.
Yeah, it's... I'm blanking. But then there's an episode where Rocco goes to see Heifer's family, and it turns out Heifer's adopted, and he was adopted by a pack of wolves.
Remember that.
And it turns out, and Heifer, who is a complete idiot, never realized that he was adopted. And Rocco kind of drops the ball in the household. By the way,
so you ripped this completely off from the jerk.
Yeah, basically. I didn't realize that until just now. They're all sitting around the table with a gigantic deer on the table, and they're just all gnawing into it, along with Heifer. There's nothing else going on. And one of the grossest things, it's probably one of the grossest things I've ever seen in cartoons. And I watched it recently because I own the series, and it still grosses me out. The grandfather has no teeth, so one of the mother and father make Heifer's brother feed him, and he takes a big chunk of this elk and puts it in his mouth and chews it into this sloppy gray paste, and then he spits it into the grandfather's mouth, and the grandfather's just sitting there gumming it, and it's all dripping down.
I'm waiting for the negative.
There's no negative. It's just utterly gross, and I'm laughing the whole time.
What if you can't eat? You've been baby birding me for years.
Well, yeah, but that's different.
That was a different.
He has no
animated
teeth. You just have a little parakeet throat.
He has to start at 6 a.m. and work till midnight to keep me this fat.
That's why he had to grow that beard.
Real quick, I need to correct myself. The episode was actually called To Heck and Back.
Oh, okay.
And what's funny is, if you watch it, they were so upset about that later on, and by the way, it again features his family. Grandpa Wolf is featured in this one. But they later on, as a joke, just to see if they could get it by, did an episode where they go to the carnival and intentionally put a ride called the Elevator to Hell, and they left hell in it. Nickelodeon didn't say anything. But in the episode, since they had to change it from To Hell and Back to Heck and Back, in the episode, that when you get to hell, there's a sign that says "Welcome to Hell," and hell is literally very visible, but just X'd out, and they write "heck" underneath it, and it looks like it's been pinned in. And that was their comment back to Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon didn't care. They just had to have the title changed.
Now, I will say this in another episode. And he appears in several episodes. Rocco's Modern Life's version of the devil is utterly weird. It is a guy in a black, head to toe, just covered in a black ghost outfit, and all you see is his eyes. You don't see his mouth or anything. And he has these weird, bulbous things coming out of his head. And sometimes he takes the mask off, and it's just kind of like a skelly face. I have no idea why they drew the devil that way.
The seal.
Oh, is that how the
Seventh Seal?
Is that how
the Seventh Seal was somewhat to like that?
Yeah,
maybe it was an homage to that.
A little bit.
But no, Rocco should have. I just want to bring Rocco up because it isn't a very adult-oriented cartoon that was clearly aimed towards kids.
My dad. And again, I just say about it because
he's deaf in the Seventh Seal. He's not really. But anyway,
any time I would be watching anything like that, the one episode I remember my dad literally stood up and went, "What are you watching?" Was the episode where it's summer and the heat is miserable, and Rocco is just sitting there with a fan on him, and he's like this, and sweat's pouring out of his armpit into, what was the dog's name?
Oh, Spunky?
Spunky, or so, yeah. And Spunky keeps drinking up the sweat, and then it just sweats down more, and he just keeps lapping it up. And my dad was like, "That is gross."
It is gross.
Well, there you go. You and my dad have something in common.
Do you have one you want to bring up?
No, go ahead, because I see Bobby's World on your list.
Yeah.
And that was Howie Mandel doing Bobby, which he had done in stand-up for years. Obviously, a little bit more edited for a cartoon.
And still sounding somewhat like Gizmo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I loved about Bobby's World was, and I didn't really get it when it first came out because I was oblivious, but I love the fact that the family's last name is generic. Generic.
I never realized that.
But it's generic. He couldn't think of a name, so he goes, "Oh, it's generic," and we'll just pronounce it generic. And that's the ongoing joke in the show. Every time they will say, "Bobby generic," it's generic. I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Bobby generic. And that was the joke for that, and I was like, that was more brilliant than Saturday morning cartoon should have been.
Yeah. Bobby's World was on my list. Also, Gargoyles.
Christy was threatened you if you didn't talk about Gargoyles.
I got to talk about Gargoyles. It technically it could have gone into the superheroes category, but man, Gargoyles was very complex, and it could not. It was almost more complex than Batman the Animated Series, in my opinion.
And it was Disney, and by the way, the Batman animation is phenomenal, but there's something about Disney animation, and Gargoyles had that Disney. And Gargoyles dealt with some adult stuff.
And that's why I brought it in.
There's a gun episode.
Exactly. There's a gun violence episode where I believe it was Lexington. By the way, all the Gargoyles... so let's start from the beginning. Gargoyles, and this is probably the most insane adult themed topic that the show covered: genocide. Because the show starts with, it takes place in the medieval ages and the Middle Ages. Lord have mercy if I could talk. The Middle Ages, and basically these people are, the Gargoyles have protected them for years, and somehow they get turned against to the Gargoyles. And the whole thing about Gargoyles is during the day they turn stone, at night they break free and they protect the castle. During the day they destroy all the Gargoyles, except for this small group who had to go out and protect them. And they come back and they realize there's been a mix-up, and they should never have done that. And the Gargoyles, who are devastated that their entire species is wiped out, decide that they don't want to go on living. They have a curse put on them to where they stay stone until the 1990s, when a mega millionaire comes out and resurrects them. And then we talk about they covered such topics as gun violence. I believe it was Lexington, who he was voiced by Patrick Starr, the coach, the guy from Coach. Oh my God!
Bill Faberback?
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
When you said Patrick Starr, I was like, who in the hell's Patrick Starr?
Yeah, Patrick Starr from SpongeBob SquarePants.
But his name's not. It's not Starr.
It's Patrick Starr.
Is it really?
Yeah, because he's a starfish. You dumb bastard.
I didn't know he had his last name was Starr. But I know he's a starfish.
Their human companion in this episode, in this show, is Renee. It's Renee Montoya. That's from DC Comics. But anyway,
it's Renee Auberjonas.
Yeah, no, I wish. But she's a cop, and he comes in and starts playing with her gun, and he drops it, and it goes off and shoots her, and she ends up in the hospital. And it's all about Lexington not knowing what to do, about telling Goliath, who's the leader, that he just shot.
Who was voiced by
Keith David.
Keith David?
Was it Keith David?
Yes.
Who the hell did Jonathan Frakes voice?
Jonathan Frakes voiced the villain. Well, actually, and he's not the villain.
I didn't know it was Keith. I've never seen one episode of Gargoyles.
He's not really the villain in the beginning.
I was waiting for you to say Jonathan Frakes, because I thought that was who did it. Yeah. And I was going to say, now if you like Jonathan Frakes, he's a very nice guy. You should go on Comic-Con's website. You can go on YouTube and look up the interview I did with Jonathan Frakes. That's all I have to add to this
Here's
episode.
some of the talent that worked on that, which, by the way, originally Gargoyles was pitched as...
Two Takes Frakes.
Was kind of pitched as Gummy Bears. It was going to be more of a comedy series with some adventure in it. Obviously, that changed.
That would have been beyond compare?
Keith David was Goliath. Sally Richardson Whitfield, Jeff Bennett, Frank Welker, Ed Asner was Hudson.
Yep.
Bill Fagerbakke was Broadway.
It's Bill Fagerback.
Thank you.
Fagerback, yeah.
Tom Adcox Hernandez was Lexington. Jonathan Frakes, as we mentioned, was David Zonatos, who
George Fagerback was who?
Broadway.
Broadway. I'm sorry, it was Broadway, not Lexington. My fault.
Lexington's where you live.
Marina Sirtis Laura San Giacomo.
I'm sorry, did they just stop by the Next Gen cast and say, would you like to come do this?
Laura San Giacomo.
Yes.
Thomas F. Wilson.
Who is a great actress. God, I wish we could get... I wish she'd do more.
Yeah.
John Rhys Davies.
Never heard of him.
Clancy Brown.
Never heard of him.
Jim Cummings.
Never heard of him.
Ed Gilbert.
I've met Jim
Matt Frewer. Tim Curry. Cree Summer. Michael Doran. Peter Scolari.
See, I told you, Next Gen.
Peter Scolari. Garrett Graham. David Warner.
Garrett Graham, now who's that?
See, Joe, he was in this movie called Used Cars.
He was in this movie called Chud, too.
No,
see,
Used
they
Cars.
didn't have... He was Bud.
Kate
He was
Mulgrew.
Chud, too, Bud.
Diedrich
Chud.
Bader. Pat Fraley. Nichelle Nichols. Xander Berkeley. I can
Are
go
you
on.
done?
Seriously,
Yes.
Tony J.
It
Tony
had
J.
good
Tony J.
actors
Tony J.
doing voices.
Tony J was in it. You ever
What
heard that Tony
else
J?
do you want to say about Garrett Graham,
Um,
who was in Bud the Chud? He is Bud the Chud.
But it also...
We
what's the
gotta
name of the
wrap this
movie?
episode
What's the
up.
name of that movie where he was Bud the Chud again, Joe?
Chud 2.
What was that subtitled? I
Bud
always
the Chud.
But yeah, no,
Where we at?
we got about 5 more minutes.
We really ought to wrap some of this up.
But no, so Gargoyles was, and it had a comic followed, and then they did a follow-up series which isn't as well loved. But it's another one that everybody wants to come back.
And also that Disney has never released the entire series.
Well, if we had a quarter.
Yes.
But
And
real
if I
quick,
had a
it is-
hammer, I'd hammer
It has
in the morning.
It has been deemed Walt Disney's most popular cartoon show, as far as the entirety of the show. And there was an annual convention that started in 1997, which was after it was canceled. And that convention actually only ended in 2009. They finally discontinued it. But it ran for 13 years after a show was canceled.
Okay.
I mean, what sort of geeky thing has to happen where you have a show that is canceled?
I don't know,
And these
DeForest.
guys-
If you could see the YouTube, I'm picking up the cheesy poops because these guys are still going.
So we're going to talk about the honorable mentions, and then we're going to wrap up this episode and tune in for part
bet-
4
Gee, many Christmas.
of 90s cartoons.
What did I say?
Which we will get into the adult.
I told
only.
you to just go do your own podcast about cartoons. Be successful.
Listen,
I
I
don't
said-
want to hear shit. 6 parts on Stephen King.
Stephen King.
You helped. He's the one that was quiet.
But
It was
yeah,
me and
I
you.
contributed
And look at
content for your desire to talk about Stephen King out the ass.
It wasn't all me. That was a lot of that was Haley.
Well, I know, but we like Haley.
Thanks.
James,
Hold
I thought
on,
you were going to chime in
hold
on that one.
Haley.
Not gonna tell
Don't
me.
be-
Never forget.
So no, some honorable mentions we're going to talk about. The Wild Thornberrys. Doug, which was very...
Stanhope.
Yeah, Doug Stanhope was a great cartoon with Disney or with Nickelodeon. I don't know why they canceled it after he talked about digging up his mother.
Life with Louie, which was about Louis Anderson's
Yeah.
childhood. Wayne Head,
Fictionalized heavily,
fictionalized heavily, pretty much made up entirely.
but
Yeah, Wayne Head, which
I
was...
don't know Wayne Head. You're
So
gonna have to-
that's why I wrote this one down, because I figured both of y'all would give me a look about what Wayne Head was. This is the one I actually had to look up because I couldn't remember the name of the show. It was a young boy named... It was created by Damon Wayans. It's about a young boy named Damie Wayne from a poor background and yet it dealt with a lot of Damon Wayans' personal issues of growing up in Manhattan. Chelsea, in the Chelsea neighborhood in the New York City borough of Manhattan. He had a club foot and one big ear. Damon Wayans had all these afflictions, and it was about it inspired him to create this cartoon. King of the Hill.
Here's the thing about King of the Hill. People love it. It is beloved. I've never understood why.
I'm right there with you.
You know what though?
It's
funny.
okay. It has great characters.
Mm-hmm.
But to just sit there and enjoy a show.
You know, do you think it's because it's too real to us? Like we know people like that.
I do know a lot of people like that, and I meant what I said but it has got great 3-dimensional characters. I believe those people exist.
Well, and I was saying about it
Just
because
don't care
I
for the
never
show.
was the biggest fan of King of the Hill. I watched it all the
And
time.
people that love it have hated on me for that.
But you know what's funny about it is I watched it. I enjoyed it for what it was to me. But you know
Did you
what?
ever sit there and watch it and just start laughing?
Nope.
No, but you know what's funny is somebody the other
I
day.
did quote some of it.
I was like the other day somebody was posting quotes from it, and I was like, That's good
I
writing.
quote Boomhauer at least once every 3 months. I don't know, click, make it money. I think it's funny, but
I can't think about Boomhauer without thinking about somebody you and I
both
know.
We used to know. So I quote it, but I don't know that I'd ever watch the show for entertainment.
But when it aired all the time on Adult Swim, I would sit there and watch it, and it never was that, oh my God, I can't stop laughing.
I mean, there's a whole episode about how Hank is constipated.
Yeah. Yeah, but
and his narrow urethra.
It is not. It's.
The entire thing about it is, though, like I said, somebody was posting quotes from it on Facebook, and I saw the quotes, and I chuckled at the quotes. But yeah, it's never been a huge belly laugh for me, and I think it's because I do like more surreal humor and wordplay, and that's not that type of show. Like it's a chuckle show to me. But it's not, oh my God, this is hilarious. It's not, Frylock, why do we always lose? Or, I don't know why we always lose. Well, Frylock, the answer to that is easy. We dumb. We dumb as hell. I laughed for 5 minutes at that, and it's a stupid line, but it hilarious. Gets me every time.
But the final two on my list, and I'm surprised, honestly, Joe, I thought you would have brought this one up. Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but I haven't seen it in 20 years.
Right. But and then finally, and let's not forget. I knew this was.
Go ahead and children have been this up, Chad.
Let's not forget Family Dog.
Technically that came out during Amazing Stories.
But the show premiered in the 1990s.
And I will eventually do my 2-parter on Amazing Stories, with or without you gentlemen.
All I got to say is let me borrow it so I can watch them, because I loved Amazing Stories.
I would say I just need to see it.
I now appreciate it more than I did when
I just need a refresher. But so you're going to do that?
I'm almost done. My kid can watch the intro to Amazing Stories over and over and over and over.
You're going to do that with or without us?
With or without you. With or without you.
Just look at how much that spiked up on that.
I can't live.
Hopefully our viewers
without these cheesy poos.
Hopefully our viewership spikes up the same way. It's not gonna happen.
But no, so that's gonna wrap up part 3 of 90s cartoons.
And next one we'll do the adult only ones. The ones that you can't watch with children unless you're a bad parent.
And then we will be done with 90s cartoons, and we shall never speak of them again.
Actually, in all fairness, some of them you can watch with your kids. It's just that they are more adult and stuff.
What I need you to do really now is to subscribe. I mentioned that right before in an episode.
I'm gonna say this. This came up. My wife told me this. This is true. I want you all to hear this because this is why you should subscribe. My daughter went behind my back and went to my wife and said, "You know what I think we need to do for Daddy for Father's Day? I think it would mean the most to him." My daughter is 9. I think we should all set up our own YouTube accounts and subscribe to his show to make him feel better. And I literally,
holy shit, that's a gift for all of us.
I literally went, oh, and at the same time I was like, does she think I'm doing that poorly? Like, oh my God, if Daddy's ratings don't go up, they're going to cancel Daddy.
And Joe, what?
Daddy's canceling himself with a pistol.
So, if my 9-year-old has enough common decency to subscribe.
What are you going to say, Chad?
I was going to say, why don't you make your Brad son?
Brad?
Brad.
I can't help but notice Quentin's not pulling his own weight in this show.
I've been talking shit to him for years. I don't know what you want me to do.
So, on that note, subscribe, rate us, leave comments, share us on your social media.
That's actually what you really need to do is share us quite a bit. Just subscribe and share.
Yeah, just let your friends know. Mm-hmm. And on that, we'll see you next week.
Yay!
Bye, peoples.
Well, we'll go back to the 90s one last time. Maybe. 2 more?
I'm pushing the button.
Uh-huh.